Would you be the jerk if you pulled a prank on your fiancé on your wedding day? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for expecting my wife to do most of the pool upkeep? I, 36-year-old male, and my wife, 35-year-old female, purchased our house 3 years ago. When we were in the market for houses, my wife stated that she explicitly wanted a pool. I didn't really care too much for a pool, but we had a flexible budget, so I guess why not? I requested though that if we bought one, she would have to do 80% of the upkeep, if not all of it. She agreed. Fast forward to now, I've done 90% of the upkeep, and my wife had an excuse every time I asked her to help me clean the pool, or check the alkalinity or pH level of the pool. She's always too tired, or she'll do it later. I let it happen the first couple of times, but it's kind of getting frustrating now. But luckily, I have 2 employees that are extremely helpful. My son, 7-year-old male, and my daughter, 6-year-old female. Very well paid, no complaints so far. Yesterday, my employees were using their time off to go to school, so I got to cleaning. Technically draining, but it took long enough that this was just about done by the time my wife got back home. By the time we were heading to bed, I asked her if she could clean it on Saturday, or I could help, but she hit me with the "I'm busy." She doesn't work on Saturday. I kind of got upset about it and told her that she should be doing 100% of the upkeep anyways, and I'm going to stop taking care of the pool from now on. She just told me to stop bluffing and went to sleep. Fast forward to this morning, and she doesn't even want to discuss anything pool related or even anything related with me. Am I the jerk? I don't think OP's the jerk, but I think really they need to start investigating what's going on with their marriage. I hope things are good outside of this, because really from what OP said, it sounds like they're completely shutting down on OP. I think this is probably just one of those situations where you gotta let them learn their lesson and say, hey, listen, we literally agreed you would do 80% if not all of it. I'm not taking care of it. Problem is, you don't want your investment to go bad. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for banning my girlfriend from using glass cups when she's over at my house? My girlfriend has problems with glass. She is clumsy, always has been, and has broken many others before now. And I would not mind, but she's also crap at cleaning the shards. This past week alone, she's dropped 3 glasses, 1 jar, 2 bowls, a coffee cup, and busted a plate by leaving it on the stovetop while the oven was preheating. Despite being warned many times before that items should not be on the burners when the oven is heating because the conduction carries through, she's been stressed out at work, so I kind of attribute a lot of it to that. I can't even really say which glass objects have injured me, specifically each time, just that I've been limping for a week because I stepped on a big shard that went into my foot, and some smaller ones went into my foot as well, plus some in my palms because I missed them when I kneeled to pull the ones that were in my foot. I've stepped on or pressed my hand into glass 4 times this week. Tonight when she asked for a soda, I poured it into a plastic cup instead of a glass one like she prefers, and said she couldn't use my glasses, and she pitched a fit. I can't phrase it different. She progressively got angrier at me for bringing up the other broken glasses because they were just accidents. And I shouldn't punish her, especially because I started mentioning others before this week, but even so, I am sick of going through gauze and tape. She insists I'm making a mountain of a molehill and I should clean it up myself to my specifications because she does her best. OP's definitely not the jerk here. I don't know if they have a specific disability that causes these problems to be frequent, but the thing is, they either gotta stop using glass if they can't stop breaking things, or they have to do a better job at cleaning up. When you drop a bunch of glass and you go to clean it up and there's shards that get stuck in people's feet afterwards, I think it's actually willful ignorance and a choice to allow those shards to be there. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect every time, but if you know that it's going to happen and you're trying to be meticulous about cleaning it up, she probably could have saved OP from getting stabbed and poked a number of times. If you need that sensation of glass, switch everything to stainless steel or something. It's close enough, right? Our next story is, am I the jerk for calling my girlfriend's boobs fun-sized? Okay, so I, male 25, have been dating my female 24 girlfriend Taylor for around 5 months now. Taylor is a small, skinny, petite woman. I really love her and everything about her. Today she was making a joke about her boobs being smaller than mine. I told her, no, they're fun-sized, and I laughed. She did not laugh. I immediately apologized for the dumb joke and said I love her as she is. She left the room pretty quickly. I feel terrible for what I said, but I seriously didn't mean anything mean with it. It was a dumb joke that I shouldn't have said. I never meant any harm. I don't think OP's the jerk here. I think it's pretty clear that they never meant to hurt their partner. They weren't actually trying to put them down. But in general, I prefer to kind of subscribe to the rule of if you're going to put somebody's physical appearance up for jokes, it should almost always probably be yours. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my kids that I won't be lonely for the rest of my life, and if they don't come to my wedding, you clearly don't give a crap about my happiness? My husband has been officially dead for 3 years. He might as well have been dead for a few years already though. He was declining for a long time, for 3 years until he passed. I was the one that took care of him until he went to a high care facility. In all honesty, I already started the mourning process years before he died. So when he did die, I already accepted it. I started to date right after his death, and I met a very nice guy. We've been together for a while and he proposed to me. He is also a widow. I'll call him Tim. Tim is a great guy and my kids hate him. He has done nothing to make them hate him. The worst he has done the whole time was go on a rant about planes. My kids hate his guts. They really hate that I'm moving on. I have discussed this before with them, and it boils down to I am replacing their father. All I ask is for them to be polite to him. He doesn't deserve their hate. He proposed and I said yes. I informed the kids at a family dinner that I'm getting remarried. They blew it up and it started an argument. Two said that they won't come to my wedding on principle of the whole thing. I informed my kids I won't be lonely for my whole life, and if they don't come to my wedding, they clearly don't give a crap about my happiness. They called me a jerk, and I want an outside opinion. I don't think OP's the jerk. I think the problem here is very clearly they process things very differently than OP did, and maybe that was because they were a little bit more detached from the situation than OP was. I mean, when you're in a situation where your partner is in that kind of state for years, I feel like it's pretty understandable that at some point you do come to terms with the situation, and when he's in a better place, you're already ready to move on. I don't think OP's the jerk, but I think it's a difficult task to get the kids to see things the way OP did. Our next story is, am I the jerk for avoiding Christmas after being excluded from a wedding for being a stripper? I, 30-year-old female, quit my stressful white-collar job 5 years ago and became self-employed. The thing is, my self-employment is an exotic dancer, stripper, entertainer. I make my own schedule, make great money, and 90% of the time, I really enjoy my job. About 3 weeks into the job, I ran into a family member's significant other. Let's call him Bob and my family member Beth. Bob was just as surprised to see me as I was him. Bob and I both agreed to not say anything to anyone. Also, when you're hired at this club, we sign a confidentiality agreement to not speak about patrons seen in the club. I also want to mention we never touched or did a lap dance, but he saw me naked considering the occupation. Fast forward 4 years later, Bob and Beth are now getting married. And of course, it spilled out I'm a stripper and he came to my club 4 years ago. Still not sure of how everything came out. Anyways, now I'm the only family member excluded from the wedding. Mom, dad, and siblings invited. Every single family member attended the wedding without issue except for my mom and dad, who decided not to attend based on the fact that I was excluded. I asked them to attend regardless, considering I really am not a huge fan of weddings anyways. Now, after the fact, I'm sort of bothered by it, not by the lack of invitation, but what seems like the complete agreement from my entire family that I deserve to be excluded. Excluding my parents, siblings still attended. It's as if everyone thought, well, she's a stripper and the future husband saw her naked once. She's not invited. And everyone agreed 100%. The wedding was this summer, and I haven't seen my extended family since. When I said I wasn't attending Christmas with them, then there was concern came about me not being present and how I was so missed. So, am I the jerk? OP's not the jerk because, let's be real, they were there doing their job, and this family member came in, recognized them, and then continued to sit there and watch OP do what they did and get into the state that they eventually got into. So who's the real troublemaker here? The one that was making money or the one who sat there and watched it happen? Our next story is, am I the jerk for starting an argument with my son on why he was afraid to come out? Am I the jerk for being hurt and upset that my son was afraid to tell me he was gay? My youngest boy, Trevor, 16-year-old male, finally told me he was gay yesterday on his birthday. He came home from school holding his boyfriend Jorge's hand and just announced it. I was a little surprised because earlier last week I asked if Jorge was his boyfriend, and he kinda just shut down on me and just kept repeating that he wasn't a F slur. I just gave him a hug and told him I loved him. Then his brothers and his ma took their turns getting their hugs in. I asked him later what changed and why he reacted like he did when I asked, and he tells me he was afraid. But me asking and then not making a fuss made him feel safe. I was confused because as far as I know, I've never said anything explicitly homophobic, though I don't think I've been super supportive of anything either, to be fair. I asked him why he was so scared, and he tells me because I'm such a gruff country guy, and that we went to church every Sunday and how we're farmers where we live. How I'd sometimes laugh at granddad's jokes about girly boys. It hurt me to hear him say that, to think I wouldn't love him. I told him as much, and he gets mad and says it's not about me, it's about how he feels. I tell him I know that, but that doesn't mean it doesn't sting. He tells me I should just be glad he wasn't afraid to tell me now, and that I was overreacting. He stormed off upset. My wife says I should just take the win and leave it at that and not to worry about before. Am I the jerk? I think OP is the jerk here because the problem is OP achieved the one thing that they were hoping for, which is that eventually they felt comfortable enough to tell you and even told you to your face, I realized that I was comfortable enough to tell you. And what does OP do? Immediately make way too big of a deal out of it and start talking about their feelings. As soon as they said, I realized I was comfortable enough telling you, that should have been like system override, accept it and smile and be happy. Although it's not judgment on his sexuality, he walked away from there feeling like there is some kind of judgment from you towards him. Our next story is, am I the jerk for saying no to son's male stripper gig? Bear with me, this whole scenario sounds like a Lifetime original movie. My, male 42, twin sons, 19-year-old male, are college sophomores. They go to a university in our city but do not live at home. I pay their tuition and expenses. They are great guys, charismatic, quite good students. They are also good dancers. A weird thing to mention usually, but this is important later. My late wife's sister is a professional dancer and teacher, and all through their teen years taught them jazz, modern, swing, salsa, and even some ballroom. So last year, sometime, one of their friends was bemoaning maid of honor duties for her older sister's wedding, including arranging a bachelorette party. They wanted to do something corny and get a stripper but couldn't find anyone. Apparently one of my boys, probably Skylar, being pretty outgoing and a good dancer, piped up and said, heck, I'll do it, which later turned into, hey, we'll do it. And the guys actually did it. They thought it was a lot of fun and the easiest $750 they'd ever made. I couldn't care less. In fact, I thought it was pretty funny. Apparently with word of mouth, someone else's bridal party also asked. And another. One thing leads to another, and they're doing this a couple of times a month. They actually form a little business, come up with a theme, lifeguards, since they'd both done that before, got their costumes or lack thereof, had music professionally mixed, biz cards, different levels of entertainment packages. They even took a male stripper academy course online. Who knew there was such a thing? From some guy in Australia that teaches dances and techniques. So do I care? Not a bit. It's slightly naughty, but actually innocent fun, making a lot of money for what they think is incredibly easy and just having fun. I've seen video of their routine, only watched up to a certain point if you get my drift, and actually they are really good and are crowd pleasers. Here's the thing, one thing I do care about. They have booked a bachelorette party in a month or so. Unlike all the rest, in this case, I know the bride. I know her family. Her dad works with me, and I socially know several of the other women likely to attend. That just gives me the icks. Go strip off and grind it for strangers. I don't want people I know sticking dollar bills wherever. And I don't want to run into someone I know at the grocery store to hear them say, oh, I saw Reese and Skylar. In fact, I saw quite a lot of them. I told my boys I'd rather they didn't do the job, that they should refund the deposit. They refused. I then got a little more stern about it. I didn't quite play the "I'm paying for your school" card, but I might have hinted at it. They didn't exactly call me a jerk. Very respectful boys, they would never do that. But they are not happy. They said I'd be costing them $1,000 and their reputation. I'm not sure what they're going to do. So, am I a jerk for putting my foot down? OP definitely is the jerk here. Is it probably embarrassing? Sure. But literally, it's morphed into a business for them, and to try to put your embarrassment and your feelings over their opportunity to continue growing and doing their business that they enjoy? OP has to be the jerk, right? It's not like a rolling out of bed, "Oh, let's go knock this out." I mean, they're investing in this. They're working at that. You want to kneecap their momentum? Our next story is, am I the jerk for uninviting my dad to my graduation ceremony because of what he said about my mom? Backstory, my parents do not get along. They divorced when I was still in the womb, and my dad married the woman he's still with now and had 5 more children, my half-siblings. He wasn't in my life for 22 years, I'm 23 now for reference, and we only just began to build a quasi-relationship last year when one of my siblings did a DNA test, matching with me on the site and thus proving that we are, in fact, related. He had apparently always insisted that my mom was a liar, that I wasn't his kid, that my mom had tried to baby trap him, and that all of his efforts to get me DNA tested and to spend time with me were blocked by her. I've accepted that I'll never truly know the full true story because both of my parents have different versions, but it is what it is. All of that aside, I, 23-year-old female, am graduating at university soon, master's degree. Obviously, my mom is first on the list when it comes to who's coming. She is my life and soul. She raised me on her own and went above and beyond for me. There's no way she isn't attending on such a major day for me. I also thought that since I'm now getting to know my dad, it would be nice for him to share this moment too, along with my siblings as well. So I brought it up during dinner a few nights ago, and while my siblings expressed interest in attending, my dad's first reaction was to say verbatim, "Oof, your mother will be there, won't she?" in a tone that really rubbed me the wrong way. I said yeah, she will be, but later on I confronted him properly. I asked him what he meant by what he said earlier, and he told me he can't be anywhere that my mom is because his wife will get jealous and insecure and that she gets physically sick when she's jealous, and he doesn't want to put her in harm's way. So I said something along the lines of, well, my mom is definitely and rightfully going to be there because she's my mom and it's a very important day for me. If that's such a big problem for you, please don't come at all. Some of the people I've spoken to in my family have said that I was harsh and didn't hear him out fully, that he never said he didn't want to come and that I probably didn't know the full story, that he's my dad and he didn't get to be there for many important milestones, so it's really quite cruel of me to tell him not to come to this one. I'm always being told that I'm missing a lot of context when it comes to my parents' full story, and yet no one wants to tell me that context. My aunt suggested I compromise and just find a way to make sure my mom and dad's paths don't cross on the day, but I don't want to have to do that. I refuse to walk on eggshells on a day that's supposed to be happy for me, to borderline babysit my dad just to make sure he doesn't run into my mother and subsequently make his wife jealous. That's not my problem. Am I the jerk? I don't think OP's the jerk at all here. Obviously, it's going to be expected that your mom is going to be there. Honestly, if anything, if that's too much of a problem for his wife, she should just stay at home. At least if she's gonna blow chunks over it, she can do it in the safety and comfort of her own bathroom. And I mean, let's be real. Who's gonna give the time of day to somebody who left them all those years ago and went on to have 5 more kids with their next partner? Like there's really a threat there. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not wanting to crochet my friend's entire wedding dress for free? So to make the long story short, I started a kind of weird tradition in my friend group. I'm not able to go to weddings much because I have kids. So instead, I've been hand-making crochet stuff for my friends to wear, mostly small things like scrunchies and gloves. Most of my friends have been super appreciative and love getting handmade gifts, since they know it can take me hours or even days depending on how big it is. Well, we found out my friend Jay is getting married in April, and we are all super happy for her, but it does seem like short notice. Jay asked me if I could crochet her a wedding dress that looked like her grandmother's, since the original dress was lost in a fire this summer. She wants everything to be exactly like her grandma's dress was, down to the yarn color. I was a bit taken aback to say the least. A dress of that scale would take months to make, not to mention finding pictures of the dress to see what I could do, and let's just say the thing is gorgeous. But there's no way even a skilled crochet expert could get that done in less than 2 months. I politely explained to her that I couldn't possibly make the whole dress for her on such short notice, but I could make her a cute shawl with the same stitch to pay homage to her grandma's dress. She responded by saying I was a bench because I was playing favorites with friends by not making her what she wanted, and then dramatically stormed off. Our friends are kind of split. All of them who do homemade crafts agree with me that Jay's expirations are unrealistic. My other friends seem torn because on one hand, this dress meant a lot more to her than just a regular project, and that I should have handled it more gently than I did. OP's definitely not the jerk here. It's one thing if it's like something that would even take you maybe a week of side time to work on. But this is a major project, even for somebody that is extremely skilled and like extremely proficient at crocheting. I don't know anything to do about crocheting, how you even start, but I can tell you with the utmost confidence that crocheting a wedding dress, at least a really nice and fancy one, is not for the faint of any crocheter's heart. This next story is, am I the jerk for telling my childhood friend he's heading for 400 pounds? My friend James and I, both 42-year-old male, have known each other since 3rd grade. He's always been a bigger guy. I've always been a bit leaner until recent. In our late 30s, I put on about 40 pounds to now be around 270. James put on weight as well and is in the 325 range. We're both taller guys, but still too heavy for either of us. Over the years, we've both tried dieting in different forms, as both of our wives are supportive and would like to join us and lose weight as well. After watching a few "Where does your meat come from?" type documentaries, not preaching, I promise, my wife and I decided to try switching to a plant-based diet. We're not vegan, we still eat cheese sparingly and skim milk on occasion, but neither of us have eaten any meat whatsoever in 8 weeks. I'm down 31 pounds. My wife is down almost 24 pounds. So I see my buddy about a month ago, when I was down 10 to 15, and he says I look great and what am I doing differently? I tell him we're trying a plant-based diet, and before I could get too deep into any explanation, he kind of cuts me short, laughs, says this is all BS, and don't start bragging around his wife as he'll never give up meat. Okay, terrific. I wasn't planning to, and also you asked me. I didn't even bring it up right now, but we leave it there. Last night we were all at another friend's house for dinner and drinks, and our host mentions my wife and I look terrific. And my wife brings up what we're doing. Despite it being received positively by everyone else with well wishes, my buddy gets all ticked off and starts openly announcing eating meat is a vital necessity to every diet. Starts calling me a soy boy and looks at my wife and says, "Don't even consider it. It's never happening." He tells everyone the only reason we're losing weight is because we're clearly starving ourselves. And anyone could get the same results on any diet doing the same, to which my reply was, "We've tried other diets without results. You know this. Maybe if you pulled your head out of your butt for a minute, you'd see that I'm not trying to recruit you for anything, and your facts are wrong. There are entire regions of the world that don't eat meat or dairy, and all much healthier than Americans as a whole. But by all means, keep on the heavy carb and red meat diet, and let us all know when you hit 400. This was a frustrating event because I don't initiate this conversation with anyone for a fear of exactly this happening. Eating meat or not eating meat triggers something in people. Regardless, my friend went to the bathroom and a couple minutes later excused himself, and he and his wife left. The dinner was fine after. The other couples all felt like he attacked us unprovoked, but he's a longtime friend. I'm 100% confident our friendship will survive this, but I still need to know if I apologize for my half of the incident, regardless of what was said in his half. Was I the jerk for how I handled it? I mean, after all of this, if you still value that friend, you probably should reach out and say, listen, I just got heated, I apologize, I shouldn't have said what I said, and just kind of explain how what you were talking about was never meant to be a suggestion or to push it onto other people. Although I will say he is technically right that you could eat anything you want and still lose just as much weight. At the end of the day, it really is calories in, calories out. That is a fundamental thing that you cannot argue against. The amount of calories out may vary depending on the person or condition, but you can still eat whatever you want as long as that number is coming in under that out, whether that's a pint of ice cream for one person or a scoop of ice cream for another. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my daughter it's not her sister's fault that she doesn't have many friends and she needs to go join a club? This story centers around my two girls. My oldest, Kylie, is very social and has a solid friend group. Her younger sister, Ruth, doesn't. The issue started when the youngest went to high school with the oldest. Ruth is a freshman and my oldest is a junior. At the beginning, Kylie was helping her out and would sit with her at lunch sometimes since Ruth was sitting alone. Over time, Ruth became more like a shadow to Kylie. It annoyed her a lot, and around Christmas, she stopped sitting with her. Big sibling fight and basically boiled down to get some friends and stop following me around. I can't be around you 24/7. Now, Ruth has been sitting by herself and on multiple times has complained to me that it's her sister's fault she doesn't have friends. I've tried to get her involved with programs, but she doesn't go to them. You can't make friends if you're not talking to anyone. I've brought up her middle school friends, but according to her, they're lame. Overall, it's been frustrating. I've talked to her so many times and asked what was going on, but overall, I just get it's her sister's fault. Kylie was invited to an event with her friend group. Ruth wanted to come, Kylie told her no. This resulted in another fight that I stopped. I pulled her aside and talked to her again about this. Later that day, she was complaining about it being her sister's fault, and I had enough. I told her it's not her sister's fault, she needs to join a club. You don't interact with anyone, so of course you don't have any friends. She called me a jerk. I'm doubting myself. I don't think OP's the jerk. I'm really kind of wondering what more is maybe going on in Ruth's life. If I were in OP's shoes and I saw this for my kid, I would be worried that there's like something maybe they should try to see a therapist for. Although considering their reaction with you trying to get them to engage with other people, I don't know how well you'll have success with getting them to engage with a therapist. 100% Ruth has to put herself out there, otherwise yeah, she won't have any friends. They don't just fall off a tree, except for the rare times they sometimes seem to. Our next story is, would I be the jerk if I, 21-year-old female, pulled a prank on my soon-to-be husband, 21-year-old male, on our wedding day? Alrighty. Few things to get out of the way. My fiance and I are as stated, with him being 21-year-old male and I being 21-year-old female. Yes, I am aware we are very young, but that's not why I'm here today. We've talked about couples counseling and will be getting married April 20th of this year. So, me and my fiance are Austin Powers fans. Movies are some of our go-to when we're looking for a good laugh. I'm a bit more of a fan as I listen to the soundtracks somewhat frequently while I'm cleaning or drawing. Some of you may be aware of the franchise, some not. So our song we've chosen for our first dance is Just the Two of Us. The song means a lot to us and is perfect for our first dance. If you're as well in-tuned with the Austin Powers soundtrack as I am, you know of the Dr. Evil mixtape version of the song. Now, I've made jokes about switching out our first song with that version, and he said he doesn't want it as our first dance, but said it would be funny, just not for the first. I was speaking to his mother on our way back from my last alteration appointment for my wedding dress, and she asked about the first dance, and if we picked a song. I told her yes and what we had decided. I told her about the jokes I'd made to him about switching it out when the idea came to me, so I asked her, "Hey mother-in-law," not using her real name, "what if, and hear me out, I played a small prank on fiancé during our first dance?" She looked over at me and raised an eyebrow and asked what I had in mind. I then proceeded to explain my thought of conspiring with his best man about either starting our first song until Evil goes, "Yeah," just long enough for him to realize and then go whoops and play the right one, or mashing the songs together so it's at a random point in time. She said she thought he'd find it funny, and I asked his friend last night and the friend agreed. Insert, I am not talking about the whole song, just maybe 5 to 7, maybe 8 seconds of it. just enough to catch him, but not enough to ruin the moment. However, I know this sort of thing can be considered rude and nasty. We prank each other all the time and enjoy it. However, as a chronic overthinker, I want to get unbiased opinions. So what do you think? Would I be a butt to prank my soon-to-be husband on our wedding day? Honestly, I think it would be a little bit funny. He said he doesn't want it. I would think probably best not to do it. He said it would be funny, but I don't want it. That probably should be respected. If anything, maybe like right as you get up to go to do the first dance, you whisper in your ear, "I switched it out for the Dr. Evil one." And then it plays the actual real one, and that's the fake out. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.